Hey Chris, welcome to Photos and Their Stories. I am so excited to have you here as my very first guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Taya. Thank you so much for having me as your first guest. I'm so excited. I can't wait to show you and talk through these photos. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
I think so too.
So my name's Chris Gray. I'm a photographer from Sydney, Australia originally, and I'm now in Toronto, Canada. I do fine art self-portraiture as well as weddings and portraits.
Wonderful. And I love your work already. I mean, just seeing it on the screen. Would you like to scroll slowly through your website just to give people an idea of the photos that you like? Amazing.
Yeah.
The reason I love your work so much is that it's vibrant, and we've talked about this in the Great Big
Yes.
Photography world, but I love that you use negative space and colors, and your compositions are very cinematic, and it's awesome to see everything in one neat place.
Thank you. Yeah, I love color.
Yes, oh yes, absolutely. That's very evident in your work.
So shall we start here?
Yes.
I went through and this morning found some photos that are really important to me, but also I was thinking about photos that have had an impression on my audience and my followers as well. So these are kind of the ones I came up with. There's 6 here. Are you able to see those?
Yes, I can see them.
Perfect. So we're going to talk through these. All right. So the first one here, this is the earliest one. So we'll go from earliest to newest, I guess. I'm not sure what I called this one because it was probably part of my 52 weeks project back in 2014 on Flickr. And I had so much fun with that project and I was so young. As you can see here, no facial hair or anything. And this one was really born out of a film that I watched called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I loved this kind of briefcase idea with like a businessman. I was playing around with smoke bombs at the time and yeah, and props as well, as you can see, the paper airplane. So this is a composite of my backyard and also a separate sky image. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I also watched that film a while back and I really liked it. And I love the fact that you used all these different props. And I'm curious to know how you how you used the smoke bomb. Did you actually put it in the briefcase or how did you work with that?
I must have put it inside, otherwise it might be behind the briefcase, but it's in a glass jar usually to keep it safe. Yeah, very dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, I've read a lot about the dangers of smoke bombs.
Yeah.
You had a pretty successful photo shoot. I really like it, and it's
Yeah,
clear that you were very young, but you did such an amazing job with Photoshop, and I really like the colors.
Thank you. I mean, of course, as we look back, we notice errors, editing. Like I can see here already the blending with the hand and the plane is a little bit dodgy there, but otherwise, I think it was a really successful edit, and I didn't do too much really, other than color adjustments and the overlay of the stars, obviously.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. I mean, it's good that we can see the mistakes that we've made as time goes by. It just shows that we're more experienced. And I mean, good job for understanding like how you can improve, and it's important to be able to appreciate your own work as well.
Definitely. But in another sense, I guess I like this photo because it captures a sense of magic and like old days of Flickr that I'm always trying to get back to. So I feel like it has something that my current work is missing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I also miss the old Flickr days. And to anyone who's watching who doesn't know, back on Flickr back in the day, there was this interesting community of people who came together and usually created conceptual portraits similar to the one that Chris is showing right now. And there was a certain atmosphere that is not really present on most platforms nowadays, I feel. So it is good to look back sometimes and be like, oh, back to those nostalgic Flickr days. That's what I used to make. Okay.
That's right. I also wanted to say this one was photographed at kind of late afternoon, dusk kind of time of day, and there were no there was no sunlight or shadows, so it was a nice flat light to work with, and obviously made it look more dark at nightimey in editing. But that's my favorite time to shoot self-portraits, I'd say, is when there's no direct light or shadow at all.
Yeah, well, flat light can be really, really helpful in portrait photography because then, as you said, you don't need to worry about shadows or anything unflattering like that. So
exactly,
it's great. Yeah, you did a great job for this one.
Thank you. All right, so the next one here is probably my most recognized image on Flickr. It's had the most, favorites and all of that, and I don't know if I quite expected that when I made it, but it has kind of followed me this whole time, and I'm really proud of it. It's back in 2014 as well, and also part of my 52 weeks project, I think. And it was, I was inspired by other Flickr artists' work at the time. I think this one is a direct influence from I've forgotten his name. Alex Curry.
Alex Curry, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Do you see that? Yeah. But also, I'd say Joel Robinson as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of young artists using these kind of props, crowns and capes and things. So I was very, wanting to be part of that. And also, I think it has elements of the story, Where the Wild Things Are. And I think a lot of us are familiar with that story.
Absolutely, yeah. I really like the depth that you add, and I think people are so drawn to this image because of the contrast, first and foremost, because you did a good job desaturating the greens. So the red stands out, and then it leads the eyes naturally to you. And it definitely has that magical feel to it. And I'm curious to know, how did you create that beautiful cape spiral?
It was tricky. I had never edited anything like this before at the time, but I basically had like a sheet that I took to the park, and my sister and I took turns, throwing it up in the air and just capturing different forms of it. So I had a lot of images to work with to composite it together. In reality, it kind of ends, only a couple of meters from my body. And so it's a lot of extra images and a lot of blur added and to create that kind of depth effect. And also a lot of color work to get it to look all red, because the sheet in real life was more of a pink or purple.
Wow, so you had to edit each individual image that you added to the composite and change the color as well so that it was red.
Yeah, and I'm surprised the lighting worked out, realistically, because there's some sunlight on parts of it, and I don't know if I added shadow work to it in editing, but it seems quite successful.
It does seem very successful. And how many images do you think you had to put together to create this one composition?
I think of the cape, probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
It must have taken quite a few hours of editing.
Yeah, it did. I remember really, deliberating over this one a lot. And also, I think I had a very specific vision, though, from the moment I, planned the concept and edited it. I really knew what I wanted it to look like. So I had already had that image in my head. And there's the colors as well. As I spoke to you about in the other podcast, I often start with the colors in my head. And that's what informs the editing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and what I like about your work very much is that you make the most of your surroundings and your props. In the first self-portrait, you mentioned that you took a photo in a backyard, and in
Mm,
this case, it's, a pretty accessible location as well. I mean, most other people could find a forest nearby or something like that. So it's very nice that you're able to create something magical out of seemingly simple props.
yeah, that's right. I think on this day, my family and I were going down to the park for a picnic. So at the last minute, I decided to just grab, the sheet and the crown, and it was a very easy thing to take with me, very portable. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't require much.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind for people who feel obliged to plan their photo shoots out all the time. I'm very much the same as you in that sense. I'm very spontaneous, and if I have a
Mm,
certain idea in mind and I'm inspired by the light or the location, then I will just start taking photos immediately with no planning beforehand. And oftentimes it
yeah.
works out for the best. So I think some people just have that personality type where this is the best technique that works. So yeah, for anyone watching who likes this and feels like they can relate to this, then definitely embrace your spontaneous side.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just use what you have, and you'll make something amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, what is the next photograph that you have for
The
us?
next one we have, the next one here is in my backyard again. I had a beautiful backyard growing up in my family home, and in spring, I think these flowers would blossom, and they were just gorgeous. It's called wisteria,
Mm-hmm.
and basically, I just did a lot of color work on this image, but most of it's not a composite. Like most of the flowers are real, and I maybe added a few in, but um, yeah, mostly it was just colors. And I remember experimenting at the time with a new technique where I would paint very light colored smoke on top of the photo.
Mm-hmm.
As you can
I
see,
see that.
like
Yeah.
I would grab the purple color from the flower and then get a really big soft brush and just kind of softly brush certain areas to create, the effect of a smoke bomb or just, more of a moody kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. And I feel like the smoke bomb effect and the props in general also were very popular even just a few years back, especially during the Flickr times. It was like a thing that everybody used all the time.
Yeah, definitely. This one as well has that same kind of feeling as the first photo, I think. And the the shirt was blue and the flowers were a little more purple, so I just tried to marry the two colors together to create more of a lavender overall. Um, yeah, I really like manipulating colors in that way, and also um, removing colors that are distracting. So the greens in this one as well, again, um, to make the other colors pop. Um,
And did you
and
just use Photoshop for this?
I did, I think. Yeah, at the time of Flickr, I wasn't using Lightroom at all. So this is all Photoshop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you are so open to manipulating colors, and I wouldn't have ever guessed that you had a different colored shirt. I would have assumed
Mm,
it was what it is in the image originally. So that's really amazing, and that's something I like to do in my work as well. And it's amazing with these programs that are constantly being developed, like Lightroom, where you can just very, very easily change the hue of the color. You can change the saturation. Just in Lightroom, there are these sliders to anyone who's not familiar with Lightroom. You can just quickly manipulate any color you like and get rid of distractions, as Chris said. So I think that's such a handy tool that we need to take more advantage of.
yeah. I think the tools we have now are like way more powerful than they were as well a few years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
um, at this age, I was kind of 14, 15 and really understanding what colors I could manipulate well and which colors didn't work as well. So, if I wanted red, I wouldn't shoot with something blue. I would shoot with something close to red because I knew, that would be easier in the editing.
Yeah, that's a good tip for people who feel like, especially in portraiture, they can't pick the right types of clothes for certain photo shoots to complement the surroundings. If you have something that sort of matches the colors in that location, then you can still manipulate whatever output
Oh,
you have.
it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. In all my early work at this age, I remember using this shirt, and I could make it any color I wanted, and it's just one shirt. You don't have to buy things.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to waste a lot of money, and if you have a very low budget, then that's totally fine. You can still make the most of the outfits you have, and you can make them look new just with the help of these color manipulation tools.
Yeah, but also I would go to thrift stores too, and find um, yeah, colored clothing that would work. So that's a good idea as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, the next one here is from a couple years later now, so 2018, I think, yeah, or 19, 2019. And this one was recently, I had the great privilege of having this displayed in an art gallery near my hometown
Oh,
in
amazing.
the Blue Mountains in Australia. And it was part of a Blue Mountains self-portrait exhibition. And I really love this because it's in the same location as the Cape photo, actually. And it's just such a different environment and feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually surprised because you don't see many trees in the background. You kind of get a completely different atmosphere. That's really cool.
Right. And I think this was taken around my birthday as well. So this self-portrait was directly inspired by just wanting to create a self-portrait for my birthday to mark that.
hmm
And I had this idea of kind of a Kirsty Mitchell-esque outfit that I bought this cheap cardigan from a thrift store to basically use just for this photo. So I could cut holes in it and everything, and stick flowers. Some of these are fake flowers and some are real, but and then some are added in post as well. But I don't know. I think in my head initially before I shot it, I wanted it to be a lot bigger and crazier, but it ended up being really nice and simple. And I like the stillness of this image.
I like that too. And what impresses me the most is that you mentioned that it was taken in the same location as the Cape photograph, as you said. And that's really cool. That's another good thing for photographers to keep in mind when they're scouting locations, because even the simplest location can have so many different corners that look different and can make your photo shoots look like they were taken on separate days. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's really great.
that's so true. And a couple other things I'll add is that this location here, like this specific spot, was weeds, disgusting, and it smelled. I remember it was so bad. Like it's not something you would think, oh, this is lovely. But I think that really shows you can make the most of whatever location. And I noticed these kind of um, fluffy little weeds with the white,
hmm
and I added a bit more of it in post too to kind of exaggerate that, to make it look less weedy and more like a cotton field or something. So yeah, just use what you have, notice little things that you like, and kind of work with that, I guess.
Yeah, it's very good advice. And I have another question for you. If people who are watching have not realized yet, you take self-portraits. So I know that a lot of people struggle with that and with making themselves look like they're lost in a certain scene while they're taking a photo of themselves. So
Hmm.
what kind of technical things go into self-portraits like this?
Yeah, so obviously, like you have your tripod and your self timer. For me, you can probably see in the bottom where my hand is that I have my phone usually, which I can see the screen on, using the Wi-Fi pairing for my camera, which is such an amazing tool to have. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to keep getting up from the spot you want to be. And for me, I guess it's just about sitting in the spot for a little while and um, trying to forget that the camera's there, putting the timer on, and just looking around, taking different kind of angles, making different shapes with my body. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I like that you emphasized changing your poses a little bit, changing your facial expressions, because that's important, especially when you're just starting to get into self-portraiture and even portraiture when you're working with models. It's important to give them the space to breathe and get into the theme of a photo shoot, because every photo shoot is different and you will inevitably feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, I think, even if it's just you and the camera. So you need to you need to give yourself that chance to just, be a little bit awkward, maybe pull a few faces on purpose. That's something I like to do.
Definitely.
Just to get comfortable. Yeah, and then you'll learn with time what works and doesn't work for you.
That's right. I think especially if there's people around in your location, it's so nerve-wracking and so uncomfortable. And I'm still, every time I take a picture, still I'm uncomfortable. So be encouraged that, it's normal and you will still make great pictures.
Exactly, yeah. And you'll get used to that uncomfortable feeling and you'll just accept it as something that has to happen. I think, of course, with time it does fade. And I think the hardest steps are probably the first ones. But once you get the hang of it, you're not going to focus on the discomfort at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. What is your next favorite photograph? I'm curious to see.
This one is from 2019 as well. And it's from a super important time in my life. So it's super personal to me. But this kind of started my love for sunflowers and using that as a motif in my work. I love yellow, and I was really kind of experimenting with bolder colors at this stage in my work. And this was in my backyard as well. I'll show you the Photoshop file afterwards, but my tripod is kind of precariously on a table. So I was hoping it wouldn't fall on me. And the sunflower is, a regular size sunflower that I composited in. So it's not too much to it, but it's effective, I feel.
It is effective, yeah. You instantly wonder how the photographer took that photo. I mean, it's an interesting angle. It could have been taken with a drone for all I know, but you said that you put a tripod on a table. So yeah, that's definitely a photographer's struggle, especially self-portraiture. You have to
Oh my gosh,
deal with slightly risky situations sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. The things that we do are so dangerous, but sometimes they pay off.
Yes, as is very evident in this photograph. Definitely.
Yes. I mean, if you have access to a drone, that's great, but not all of us do.
Unfortunately, I wish we all did. I wish we all got these free drones that we could take really beautiful creative photos with.
I wish. Okay. What else do I want to say about this one? I think we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, I feel like it really speaks for itself, that photograph.
So this one is the last one. This is probably the most recent. And this is so fun because it's a recreation of an older Flickr photo back in 2015 or 16. So I was doing a project with a bunch of other ex-Flickr photographers called Still Flickering. And we were creating self-portraits based off our other work that our audience would nominate, a photo each week for us to recreate. So this one was basically the same outfit, same concept, but elevated, so that I was floating in the sky, and it's a full body this time, whereas the original was just me sitting down. So I think this is what I wanted to create at the time as well, but I didn't have the editing abilities back then. So now to revisit that and to execute it like I wanted to is really rewarding.
Yeah, I really like that. And I love that you recreated an old image, and I love that the Flickr community came together to do that. I remember when that happened, actually, it was really nice to see photographers going back to their very old work and focusing on their past goals and being able to elevate them, as you said. And I think it's an amazing thing that we can all do from time to time, especially when we feel like we're not really connecting with photography, which happens often, I think, in many people's cases. Especially during a time like this when you're feeling a bit lost and confused. I think it's a good idea to go through your old work and try to recreate it and see how far you've come. I think that's incredibly rewarding, as you said.
It's such a good idea too when you're feeling uninspired to just go back to something old that you made and recreate it. So you don't have to do that work of coming up with a concept. You can just see how your editing has progressed, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
So here's are you seeing the Photoshop file here?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. So let's have a look here. We have the original image of myself that was taken just against a brick wall in my backyard. And you can see there's a lot of shadows and a lot of creases on the clothing as well that I had to clone out. But the background image is just an iPhone photograph actually from a view close to my house at sunset. And I liked the colors in that and I felt like it would go well. I added some more clouds from just a stock image on Google. And then myself, just changing the colors of the clothing. So that layer there is to remove a lot of the creases in the clothing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So less distracting. And then some more clouds from Google. And then a pink kind of overlay for those clouds as well.
Oh, that's nice. That adds a nice touch to everything.
Just to kind of marry that pink color down in the sky there. And then I took it into Lightroom after that.
Very nice. That's cool. It's really nice to see the process of creating these images and putting them together. But I'm curious to know, how did you place that pillow so that it looks so elegant?
Yeah, I wonder if I can find this original image. Oh yeah, here it is. So the original image here, the brick wall, I'm standing on a stool here and you can see my other arm is holding the pillow up, right? And then I took another image where my right arm was down. So I composited that arm in afterwards.
Cool.
Interesting. Oh, and I think I used another image of the left hand as well, so it was in front of me.
Yes, I see.
So there's a lot to it.
Definitely a lot to it, yeah. And it was probably difficult to cut yourself out of that original image.
It was, yeah, not the best backdrop.
Yeah. It would probably be best, I mean, for anyone who wants to create something that's to shoot in front of a white background, or?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think also I did a lot of work on the feet because the angle of kind of floating, they looked like they were still standing on something, so I had to try and make them look like they were hanging.
Yeah, it always fascinates me how much work people put into their compositions, especially when it comes to conceptual work, because there's so much behind the scenes. And this is the reason I'm working on this podcast. Just so much that goes on, and it's cool to see that, and I think it's inspiring for many people, especially those in the conceptual photography genre.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share it because I don't often get to share this stuff. And also, I'm excited to see future episodes from other people.
Yeah, oh, me too. I'm really looking forward to future conversations.
Yeah. And then quickly, this is the last one I have here in Photoshop. So you can see the original image here with the tripod legs in the bottom of the screen on the table. So it's, quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And then there's we had to add so cloning in the grass to cover the table, which was super hard actually. And then I had a shadow layer for the sunflower here.
Okay, yeah, that's something people don't consider. When you add extra props that weren't originally there, you have to add shadows, and it's just this whole, you have to basically know physics as well.
It's so true, yeah. Like you have to pay attention to, so the subject, which is me in this case, where are the shadows on me, and then try and replicate that.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging, and people, I don't think it's something that occurs to people initially, like when they look at a photograph, but once you show them behind the scenes as you are doing now, it's just kind of dawns on you how challenging this is. So
that's without the shadow. You can see that it doesn't really look like it's there, but all of a sudden with the shadow
All of a
works.
sudden, pops. Yeah, that's great.
So it doesn't take much either, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then I think I took that into Lightroom afterwards as well. But yeah, this is a simple edit really. And I think the original.
Yeah, you have to cut that one out too.
Yeah, so that's the original image of the sunflower here. And as you can see, it's a small sunflower, and there's the grass. The grass looks a lot bigger there. So that was difficult to cut out because there's a lot of blurred areas.
No, yeah, you did a great job. It's amazing to see just how much work was put into this whole photograph.
Thank you.
Very cool. And how long did it take you to learn Photoshop to really feel comfortable with it?
I think I'm still learning, and they making new versions all the time. But I think, at least a couple of years it took me just watching tutorials and other photographers teaching me. But it comes from, having time and having a desire to experiment and figure things out for yourself. So being part of those Flickr days was really instrumental in that as well, because I wanted to figure out how these people were making these things.
Yeah, it's amazing that you had those references, and even now I feel like it's possible to have people like that as inspiration. I mean, look anywhere you want, Instagram, Flickr, you name it, there's always someone out there with these incredible skills. And thank you for showing behind the scenes. I'm truly inspired, and I wouldn't have expected, these little things that really made your images pop in Photoshop, like, adding the shadows. That definitely impressed me, and all the layers that you used. I think the watchers are also very interested in the whole process. So thank you for sharing that with us.
No, thank you so much. It was so fun to show you.
Very fun, likewise.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see more episodes of this podcast and other photographers' work and see how they created theirs. I think it's so interesting for photographers and non-photographers alike.
Exactly, yeah. And who knows, maybe somebody will stumble upon this video and think, I want to become a photographer now, because this is such an immersive, inspiring, creative process.
Oh, I hope so. That would be so happy. That would make me happy.
Yes, yeah, same. So everybody who's watching, if you want to check out Chris's work, go to the description. Make sure you click on all his links and give him lots of love. And I hope that this episode inspired you to rediscover a different side of yourself, go back to your old work, recreate an old picture, and always remember that behind the scenes there's always something going on, and it is great for us to be able to come together and teach each other all these things.
Thank you so much for having me, Taya. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you too.
Bye.